Hello, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane and Hurricane HD video blog for Thursday, August 23rd, 2012. A look at the tracking map shows us that things are quite busy out there. Tropical Storm Joyce forming out here. The third time in history that we have had the J storm, or the 10th named storm, by this date. The other two times were 2005 and 1995, but we haven't had nearly the hurricane activity that we had in those years, luckily. And then we have Isaac, of course, which is the big news story. Even though it's still very weak, only 40 miles per hour, it has the potential here over this next few days to grow into a formidable hurricane and have quite an impact on a lot of land masses. Looking at the visible satellite picture, you notice it's not very well organized. There's no easily identifiable inner core. There's certainly no eye. You can't detect that on satellite. But the environment down here is very favorable for strengthening, as noted by the forecast discussion from Dr. Jack Bevan this morning at the 11 a.m. advisory package. In fact, he says that it is favorable for rapid intensification as Isaac moves off to the west-northwest here, headed towards Hispaniola. Now, the mountains of Haiti and especially Cuba here, especially, can really do a number on this circulation, but if it never really develops that inner core, you won't have much of an inner core to disrupt. In other words, what's weak will stay weak, and then once it gets off the coast of Cuba up here and heads maybe in this direction, as indicated by the forecast track, it has plenty of time to strengthen over the very warm waters of the Florida Straits and the Gulf of Mexico. But make no mistake, the rainfall that's coming for this region right here, in and of itself, a big problem, and people down there need to take that seriously. I believe with their hurricane experience, and even just from tropical storms, they know, and hopefully the appropriate actions will be taken to protect life and property. The track takes Isaac over increasing heat content values, not only in the Caribbean, but also in the Gulf of Mexico and the Florida Straits. And as Dr. Bevan noted on the update at 11, there is definitely the potential for some rapid intensification to occur, but only if the inner core can consolidate and vertically align itself and really start to become organized. There's no way to forecast that. I say no way, there's probably, just almost no way. It's almost impossible because the inner core of a tropical cyclone is so very different than any other weather phenomenon on Earth that it is difficult at best for modern computer models even to get a grasp on that. The upper environment, though, is ideal. This is the day 5 GFS 200 millibar field. Isaac would be sitting right in here, and you can even see it has cyclonic flow, and then around it is anticyclonic flow, with Isaac sitting right underneath that anticyclone aloft. That basically just means very light winds aloft. You don't have wind coming across Isaac to shear it. In fact, the shear would be 5 knots at all, if anything. So an ideal upper environment, and then Isaac shows up very well in the 500 millibar field, or about 40,000 feet in the atmosphere or so. 500 millibars is 18 to 20,000 feet, showing up very nicely. And then if I go back to the 200 millibar chart, which is up at about 30 to 40,000 feet, you can see it's parked right underneath this huge area of high pressure aloft that will provide it with a very favorable outflow pattern. So once it gets off of Cuba and cuts across the Keys here, it's going to be in a very ideal position to develop. And if we look at sea surface temperatures in the Gulf, 30 degrees Celsius off the coast of Florida, even 31 here in the Florida Keys and around the Florida Keys. Just very warm water. I cannot emphasize enough how much rain this is going to produce. The track coming across like this, if that holds true, remember that Florida here would be on that right-hand side, the right front quadrant, where the active upward motion side is. The air is converging the most on the right-hand side, and a lot of rainfall is expected. Even if the center stays offshore, severe weather, tornadoes possible. You folks in the peninsula of Florida, if this does not hit you directly, you are still going to feel the impacts from it. Remember, tropical storm force winds now extend out up to 140 miles from the center, and that is something that needs to be considered as it moves towards Florida in the next several days. The Euro, interesting run. Again, this is last night's run. Its day 5 position, not as far west as it has been from the GFS and the National Hurricane Center plot, but the 5-day position did show it north of Cuba and quite a bit farther away from Key West. And then day 6 moving northwest, day 7 more north-northwest into, it looks like, either the extreme western Florida panhandle or very close to Mobile or Gulf Shores, Alabama. It's hard to tell on the resolution of this particular graphic. But what this tells us, and this is mentioned in the discussion, that anywhere from northeast Florida, a track where it would come across like that, or wider out towards the central Gulf is possible. And that means that a lot of people in Florida and the entire southeast here, because once this makes landfall, it will curve, it looks like, and come up into the southeast, bringing very heavy rain, tropical storm conditions, maybe even 100 miles inland, especially considering how big Isaac is. A lot of people are going to have to deal with this, and don't focus entirely on how strong it gets wind-wise. These things have more than just one weapon. Wind, storm surge, rain, and tornadoes are the 4 main hazards of tropical cyclones, and all of those things need to be taken into consideration as you track this over the next several days and prepare accordingly. Again, I am Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com. Always glad to provide these videos to Hurricane and Hurricane HD. By far, I think the best tracking app out there. I do want to mention, in terms of landfall-specific apps, Hurricane Track, our own app, is available in the App Store, and when Isaac makes landfall, you will have the absolute greatest set of tools available with Hurricane and Hurricane HD. And if you go out and get Hurricane Track, we will have live landfall data, weather data, wind instruments, feeding data into the app, pressure sensors, and live webcam images all go into our app, as well as multiple field video blogs, and you can even track where we are in our Chevy Tahoe, our mobile hurricane tracking vehicle, right in our app. So go to the App Store and search Hurricane Track, all one word, and you will have, between Hurricane and Hurricane HD, even Hurricane Express with Hurricane Track, you just can't get a better combination than that. I dare you to try to find it, especially when it makes landfall. I think you'll be very, very impressed. All right, enough of the commercial. Again, I appreciate you watching, and I will do another video update for you all tomorrow.